Minnesota Frost are back-to-back Walter Cup champions, but can they pull off the three-peat? All will be answered in this video. Welcome if you're new here. I'm 365. I talk about PWHL pretty much every day, and I'm doing a PWHL primer series where I'll cover every single PWHL team. Starting with the basics, the Minnesota Frost play at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, which they share with the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Frost are the only PWHL team to ever win the Walter Cup so far, winning it in 2024 and in 2025. Now, the Minnesota Frost did lose a lot of players through the expansion draft and free agency. Honestly, too many players to name just in this video, but some of the highlights are Sophie Jakes and Claire Thompson, two of their best defenders. Also, Michaela Cava and Brooke McQuigg on the offensive end. And honestly, I know this probably sucked if you're a Minnesota fan. Vancouver is pretty much Minnesota Frost 2.0 right now. But honestly, I think Minnesota drafted pretty well. And when I'm looking at this roster, I think Minnesota could potentially pull off the three-peat. I think the most important thing is that they re-signed Maddie Rooney. So for context, if you're a new PWHL fan, Maddie Rooney and Nicole Hensley are the two goaltenders for the Minnesota Frost, and I would argue that they are really the difference makers that allowed the Minnesota Frost to win those two Walter Cups. Because Rooney and Hensley were both so good that, like, let's say Rooney's having a bad day, just throw in Hensley. Okay, now Hensley's having a bad day, throw in Rooney. They also kept a lot of their leadership core like Taylor Heisey, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Lee Steckline, Kelly Panic. So honestly, most of those core pieces are still there. Let's also not forget that the Minnesota Frost was actually the 4th seed in both years. So it's not like Minnesota Frost is like dog walking these other teams during the regular season. It's like, no, they're barely squeaking into the playoffs and then they just like go freak mode during the playoffs. So while it is tempting to say, oh, Minnesota lost so many players, there's no way they can three-peat, I've been scarred enough that I do not underestimate the Minnesota Frost anymore. But despite keeping some of their star players, it is worth noting that Minnesota Frost's depth players are who have won them their championships. Liz Shepard was a 4th liner for the Minnesota Frost, and she scored the game-winning goal in both 2024 and 2025 to win those two Walter Cups, and she now plays for Boston. Do with that information what you will.